Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar on overcoming the technician shortage with mentoring. I am Amanda Goyette. I am an admin assistant here with AERA, and I'll be moderating today with my colleague, Rob Monroe.
Hey, everyone. Yeah, Rob Monroe here. I look after membership and technical development with AERA, and I want to welcome you to today's webinar. Pretty excited about this one. This is a kind of a topic that I'm very passionate about, and I'm sure all of us at some point have had a mentor in our life, and we can help pass that along for training purposes. And that's kind of what today's webinar is all about. So really looking forward to this one. For those of you that are on here that are members, you probably recall getting your contingency connection. There's like a rewards booklet that you get when your membership, and of course you see that it's loaded full of all kinds of rewards and different discounts and that kind of stuff. Now, AERA, we've been a long-time partner with Contingency Connection, and the reason why we do this is we really like the fact that they do support the grassroots racing program. So this goes, for any of those that help engine builders and installers and performance shops. In the last 30 years, their motorsports marketing programs have been out there helping grassroots racers. So, I mean, this is just the little guys that are out there trying to have fun on weekends, and I mean, they're definitely spending more money than they're making at the racetrack. And we definitely encourage that you to have a look at this program and check out that book for sure. But check out their website and just see how they can, they're probably coming to a local track near you, and they can really help you out there. All right. Well, like I said, I'm really looking forward to this webinar. I got to know I got to know Mark actually, and this fall, and we were out at a conference in Arizona, and I sat down with Mark and started to learn a little bit more about the program and mentor mentee. And the more I heard and the more I listened, the more it really, I got interested in how can we get these guys to be able to do something for us so that our members can see just what it is that they're involved in. So big help from both Kyle and Mark, and I'm happy to introduce them and get them on here. And like I say, if you've got any questions, please put those in the questions box. We'll get those over to Kyle and Mark afterwards, and we'll get all those answered for you. So Kyle, Mark, how you guys doing today?
Doing fantastic, Rob. Thank you to you and the team for having us on. Honored to be on and talking mentoring as it relates to the technician shortage. So before I do anything, can everybody see my screen? Okay, let's get started here. So yes, like Rob said, my name is Mark Brune. I'm a business development manager here at Mentor Mentee. This topic is something that Kyle, I, and our team have worked on over the past couple of years, and boy, have we come across a lot of knowledge and insight into how we can make mentoring more achievable for our businesses in the technical trades. So before I go any further, Kyle, please give us 30 seconds to a minute on who you are.
Yeah, so just like Mark said, we really appreciate you guys taking time with us today. So a little bit of our background: Mentor Mentee came out of our previous company, SP2. With SP2, we were providing safety and environmental training, and we were really working with about 4,300 career tech schools across the country, and over 2,500 shops across auto service, collision, diesel, really the whole gamut on the automotive aftermarket. And what we kept hearing over and over again is people talking about the shortage, but also talking about how do we grow our own technicians. And so we began with a proof of concept, and then Mark and the team really took it and turned it into something that's a systematic approach to creating a mentoring process. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, because we want more young men and young women to enter the industry and stay in the industry.
Well said, Kyle. I think that kicks us off perfectly here. So with that in mind, what we're going to cover today starts with assessing your team and finding the best possible fits for your mentoring roles. 2, once we have those people, making sure they understand what's expected of them and what they can expect of the program. Looking at compensation, not only for the mentee, but for the mentor as well. And then tools. How can we come up with some tool packages and make those more achievable for mentees? We'll keep going on task lists and then tracking mentee progress against them. We'll give you a look at what a mentoring system looks like. It'll be our mentor-mentee system. And then finally, some pitfalls and really some things to keep in mind that can save you some problems and frustrations down the road when you're just starting off with the program. So in this webinar and beyond, really our everyday is to help industry do three things. One is to make mentoring easy because it's more achievable than you think. Two is to help entry-level technicians stay in the industry. When they come in, we need them to stay because really we don't have enough experienced technicians to go around. And third and finally is that when you do run a mentoring program, to run it with a system for technician development. Not just stringing things together, but to go in with really a calculated method for training your technicians. And the reason we're here, Rob said it, Kyle said it, we all know it, there is a shortage of technicians across the board, whether that's in engine building, collision, heavy duty diesel, or even welding. All of these industries are affected. So the question becomes, what can we do? And naturally, one of the first answers to that is, let's go get in some entry-level technicians and see what they can do. And it's not a bad idea. Axalta did a study and they found that over the first 3 years of an entry-level technician producing hours, they average about $625,000 in revenue generated over that initial 3 years. And if you're running at a gross profit anywhere around 46%, that's almost $250,000 that they're bringing into your business. So naturally, why wouldn't we want to do this? And why isn't this happening at scale? Well, sadly, those technicians don't get to their 3rd year, let alone their 7th month on average. The ASE Education Foundation found that within 2 years of a graduate from an automotive program entering in the industry, well, 41% of them are not only leaving their first employer, they're leaving the industry as a whole. And really, it turns into kind of a revolving door where an entry-level technician comes in, they get chewed up or they're not really given a plan, and then they're spit back out to never be seen in the industry again. And so at this point, I want to turn it to Kyle and talk to us about 70%.
Yeah, so Mark's right that with 41% leaving the industry in the first 2 years, that's unsustainable. There are lots of reasons that a young man or young woman will leave the program, but we've also got to acknowledge the fact that when you're implementing any kind of training program, mentoring, apprenticeship, just on-the-job training, even just a shadowing program, a lot of times those fail because there's not true buy-in up and down the organization. And 70% of initiatives are failing due to a lack of commitment from leadership. This could include ownership, this can include management. But if one person can easily sabotage a mentoring program, what has to happen in order to make sure that a mentoring program works and works well is that it has to be, look, we're going to do this, we're all going to be committed, and if you're not going to be committed, if you're not going to be on the same page with what we're trying to accomplish because we've got to have technicians, then I'm going to have to put you in a position where you can't negatively impact that position, and that may mean you can't be with our company. There has to be that commitment to having a successful program moving forward. So what we've done is we've worked to create a systematic approach to mentoring, and these are the 6 steps that we're going to talk about and show you. Number 1 is assessing the organization and the people involved. This would include finding out, is our company even ready for a mentoring or apprenticeship program? Do I have the right manager to oversee that mentor-mentee relationship? Do I have the right people in place that can be a mentor or mentors to that next generation technician? And then lastly, assessing the mentee or apprentice to make sure that they fit with what you're trying to accomplish. We want to make sure everybody's educated, that they all get on the same page. We provide a system in place to help you recruit the not just the mentee, but also the mentors within your own organization, creating a plan, that task list that Mark mentioned, and you're going to see the task list that we've been working on, then executing that plan, making sure that that the tracking is taking place so that it's a transparent relationship, that the manager, the mentor, and the mentee can all see it, and then analyzing those results and rewarding them, and then starting that process all over again. Because if a system is not a system unless it's in writing. And you know what? The power behind this is that you can start that system all over again. It should be a repeatable process. So where does mentoring begin? You've already heard us say that there's a manager that has to be involved. And all too often, a program starts by finding the mentee or the apprentice and bringing them in, and then figuring your way out. But that's a backwards approach to it. You have to have the right manager in place so that you have that leadership commitment. Once the manager is in place, that's when you should figure out who is the appropriate mentor for my location, for my business. If you don't have that person in place, that's okay. By making that assessment early, you can determine, okay, I need to go find an appropriate mentor, or maybe the right mentor isn't who you initially thought it was going to be, or maybe you knew all along. Then go find the mentee once you have the manager and the mentor in place. Now look, there are famous mentors from across history, and in fact, mentor was a person. In the Odyssey, Odysseus leaves his son Telemachus with mentor, and he leaves mentor there to train his son and help his son while he cannot be around. So when we talk about a mentor, we're actually talking about a person's name. But there are lots of other famous mentors that we've seen in popular culture. You know, Yoda and Luke, Daniel and Mr. Miyagi, Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, even Walter White and Jesse from Breaking Bad. Maybe not legal what they were doing, but there was a good mentoring relationship there. So what I want to ask everybody to do is, in your chat right now, your mentors, you've probably had great mentors along the way. Just put their name in the chat. Just write their name in there and honor them, even though they aren't going to see this and nobody else is on this is even going to know who those people are. Honor those mentors that you've had. Just put them in the chat right now, because they did something. They gave you something that is that gave you a passion for where you are today. I'm actually entering mine right now. All right. Mark, why don't we hit the next slide while everybody's putting those in? All right, so recruiting. Once you have the manager and mentor in place, you've got to go find that mentee or that apprentice. So where can you recruit from? Well, we've worked with, like I said, over 4,300 career tech programs across the country. The instructors out there are used to people saying, hey, give me your best student. I just want your best student. Well, you've got to make a commitment to those instructors, but they have young men and young women that are already learning the skills that they need to enter the industry. Now, they are not prepared. When they exit that program, they don't know everything, which is why entering into a mentoring program is so valuable. And also, by having a mentoring program in place, it gives you the ability to sell to the students as well as selling to the instructors that your facility is the right kind of place for their students to enter, because you are dedicated to helping keep them in the industry. Recruiting from other service industries, restaurants, hospitality, anything where they're in service and they're interacting with the general public. Those soft skills are hard to teach. Teaching the technical skills, well, that's what the mentor is there for. But having somebody who's already got the right soft skills puts you ahead of the curve. Veterans, talking to the military bases that are near you, looking for those veterans who are coming out, who already have the skills and discipline, ready to enter the industry or ready to enter civilian life. They're looking for something that they can utilize those skills on. And maybe they do need some mentoring. Maybe they're not going to come out knowing exactly how to work within your facility, but they've got the right soft skills already in place. And also recruit everywhere. The first three make it really simple, but always be recruiting. My father, Laryl, he's a mentor to me. He's a mentor to Mark. He always has said that he collects people. because he never knows when he's going to need somebody with those skill sets. So always be learning about people around you in your community, because everywhere you may just find that perfect mentee for your facility.
And I'd like to jump in on this one, Kyle. Like you said, the soft skills are hard to teach. And two of the soft skills we always recommend to keep an eye out for is one, willing, and two, able. So able, it's an adjective. It means having the power, skill, means, or opportunity to do something. So let me give you an example. I'm willing to be on the cover of GQ magazine on a quarter-by-quarter basis. Unfortunately, I don't have the ability to do that as much as I'd like to think I do. Kyle, on the other side, always talks about, Kyle, you want to play power forward for the Los Angeles Lakers. Is that right? Yeah, it's not happening, man. I'm so sorry to tell you. I don't think you have the ability to do it. So just like Kyle said, maybe you're at a fast food restaurant and you see somebody that has a good attitude, who's following processes and has some customer facing experience. If they can do well in a fast food environment, imagine what they can do in your business with the right skills, tools, and training. Just something to think about. And so for us, one of the ways that we help businesses determine who's going to be a good fit for a program is with assessments. But for us, the assessments don't start with the people. They actually start with the business itself. At this point in time, not every business in the US, Canada, or beyond is ready for a mentoring program, and that's okay. We'll show you some things to keep in mind when you go out, but just because you're not ready now doesn't mean you can work on a couple of things and be ready in the future. So if the business is ready, we'll go on to assessing the manager, the mentor, and the mentee as well. Really, the goal is to get the right mix of people on the bus before we take off down the road on a long trip. So if we can get the right people, and actually, I think we've got an example. Yeah, on the left-hand side of my screen right now, this is the results from a workplace culture assessment, or something that we would give out to determine if a business is ready for mentoring. And just, you can look up and down this chart here. It starts with product confidence. Do employees believe in the product or service? Company confidence. Do employees believe in the company? And then vice versa. Does the company believe in its employees? Communication, down to diversity, harassment, safety. Really, it's a mix of items that we might not naturally think about when we're just starting out a mentoring program. But if you do, and if you can think about some of these items, you can potentially have some more wins down the road. So let's look at the opposite spectrum, because this report looks darn good, like we'd be a good place for mentoring. And let's take a look at a mentor assessment who might not fit the bill. I mean, starting off, they've got a 35% in belief in the automotive industry. And let me tell you this now, if a mentor doesn't believe in the industry that they're working in, don't expect them to sell the benefits down to a mentee. Same thing for belief in mentoring itself, or even their own ability to instruct, but especially these two, communication and listening. A lot of times, mentors and teachers get correlated in the same bucket, when in reality, a mentor has elements that a teacher would undertake on a day-to-day basis, but it's more of a two-way street. There's a lot more listening that takes place, and not necessarily so much of you will do this, but hey, you have an opportunity to do this. Let me show you how. You can't make somebody willing and able if they're not already there. So this is just a couple of examples of assessments. And so no matter the method of how you evaluate your people, take the time to identify the right players for your program. Don't stop at the first right answer. And this one is really important. Think about the long term. If you were to sign up all of your technicians today as mentors, which ones would still be mentors 2 to 3 years down the road from now? So there's plenty of options outside of mentor mentee. You have your discs, Kiersey Bates, strength finders, and plenty more out there. Excuse me. Okay, we have the right people for our program, and we know who's going to be a good fit. How do we educate them? For us, it's online courses. We have a course for each role, and just to hit some of the high points of what we cover for each, a manager, being an effective manager in a mentoring program, considering tool programs for a mentee, compensation for mentors, mentees, and then recruitment. A lot of the things that we've already talked about here today. And then for a mentor, how to be a mentor, what not to do as a mentor, because there are plenty of things, communication as well, and really just some other things that a mentor might not be thinking about when they just start off. And then finally, for a mentee, covering items like your plan, using a task list, a little bit of demonstration, and then tool etiquette as well. I think this is a good time to point out as well that a lot of times we think that, you know, common sense is just common, that people should know things that we know. Just like a baby learning not to touch a hot stove, you're gonna have to bear with your mentees as they get their fair share of bumps and bruises, really amongst that shop culture. The more you can do to prepare them for that environment, the better off they're gonna be. Now, to move to a topic that comes up frequently, we hear it all the time, is how do I compensate my mentor amongst all of this? Number one, your mentor cannot lose money. And when we start off with a program that's not like fully thought through and systematized, that might get left off our radar. So don't let your mentors lose money. And if anything, they should get some upside from your mentees. Maybe that's in the form of a long-term bonus on X number of work orders without a comeback, or X number of skills learned by a mentee. And maybe there's some more day-to-day options that you can come up with. But really, as a business leader, it's important to be, you know, creative and thoughtful about how you can incentivize your mentors. And a lot of times, it might not be money. As the leader, as someone who's close to them on a day-to-day basis, try to figure out what motivates them the most and lay that out as an incentive. Looking at the other side of things for a mentee, let's put this out there now. The mentee is not ready for flat rate or commission when they're just coming out of a program or coming out from the external world. Two, they won't have the needed tools. So again, as a business leader, it's essential to give them a roadmap for how they can increase their pay, what they're starting off at, and then their tools as well. And if we want to talk more about tools later on, we certainly can in Q&A. So for your mentee, laying out that roadmap, really, it kind of breaks down into two different categories. The first is the long-term career plan. This should answer questions like, what's the timeline? Where am I going? Who will help me get there? And even if your mentors change over time, if you can show a mentee these three things with a mentor's name even written down, you've already got more of a plan than many mentoring programs out there. And on the second half, day-to-day plan. What tasks will I need to do? What do I need to learn about those tasks? And how am I going to be measured against it? And luckily, you know, this can be kind of a confusing plan. Well, I don't know. We service a lot of vehicles. We have a lot of different, you know, makes and models coming in. Where do I start with a task list? Don't worry. Rob and his team have put together a great task list, and it's specific to engine building, around 20 sections, 127 tasks, and it covers items like soft skills, engine work, tool use, so on and so forth. And this is designed per Rob for use over a 4-year span. So put in the chat now or later on if you'd like to get access to this task list in one way or another. But again, big thanks to Rob and his team for putting this thing together. And what's the goal on those task lists? It's to get repetitions. The first time we changed a baby's diaper, the first time we rode a bike, it probably didn't go as well as it could have. And what made us better? Doing it over and over again. So looking at the staircase, the very last step is a skill. And so if we have a mentor and a mentee, the goal is to help that mentee up the gradient of skill by getting repetitions on the same tasks over and over again until it's almost like driving down the road and we really don't have to think too much about it. If we can get that right mentor in place, well, we can get to skill and really get that mentee to start producing some hours. So with those repetitions in mind, whether you track progress using paper, Excel, or even an app like Mentor Mentee, track progress and use it to everybody's advantage. The more data you can get, the better mentoring decisions you're going to be able to make. Right now, I'm going to switch screens here, and we're actually going to give you a live demo of our mentoring system that we built up over the past couple of years. And while I do that, I'm going to put Kyle or Rob on the spot. You guys got any good jokes?
Oh, come on, don't do that, Mark. No, we're not doing jokes right now. This is a great opportunity, though, as we take a look at the actual system itself. You know, one of the things that's scary for most businesses is when they say we want to do mentoring, and then they have to stop and say, well, where do we start? Well, here's where you start if you want truly a mentoring program in a box.
Absolutely, Kyle. Thank you for the context. You're spot on. I think what we've tried to do with Mentor Mentee is bring we did bring clarity and objectivity to a subjective topic, and that is mentoring. And so what you see now, and Kyle, we can see the screen, okay? Is that right? Perfect. So what you're seeing here is the view of a mentor who's logged into a single account on Mentor Mentee. I'm on my dashboard page, and of course, we'll start with the process. And for assessments, we can go ahead and look at my results here. And as the page loads, we'll see the high-level categories come out, see how they fit in with our culture. So we've got the high-level output, some specific text down below as well. But traditionally, with this assessment here, we'd recommend that multiple people within your shop take that assessment. Don't just get the point of view of one person on the culture, because it's going to vary by person to person. So we have the culture assessment. We have our courses as well, really setting expectations, and none of them take, I don't think, less than 3 hours or so. But the area that we really want to focus on is where the rubber meets the road, and that's with planning and tracking tasks for a mentee. Looking to my right, I've got a panel for a strange name for a mentee, AERA Mentee. And if I click on the task button to the right of their name, the first thing I'll see is their name in the top left corner, followed by the task list that we're working on, which is the AERA entry-level task list. And just scrolling down the page, I'm going to see some high-level sections of the task list that we're working on. We have communication, work prep, shop safety, all the way down to engine balancing, installation, and break-in. So again, I tip my hat to Rob. They built a really robust task list here. So my mentee comes in for one of their first days, and the first thing I want to do is get them used to the terminology and aspects of machining. So let's go ahead and open up section 4, fundamentals of machining. And we're looking at tasks that are bite-sized in nature, and they're covering items like familiarization of machining processes, understanding tool materials, recognizing cutting tools, drills, reamers. You kind of get the idea. My mentee comes in, and they actually take an online training course right on tool materials. What I can do as a mentor is I can go to that task, click add rep, and enter that repetition on the task or on that course. So let's say it was 20 minutes. And I can also leave a comment and say, module 1 completed, great job. And finally, I'm going to select a rating. The scale that we use is 0 to 4. 0 meaning no exposure, haven't seen the task before, all the way up to 4. Competent, proficient, able to perform all elements of the task successfully and independently. Since it was his first crack at it, we're going to put him at a 2. Completed the task with significant assistance. And when that add rep button is clicked, we're recording that progress in the system, and we're beginning to get the flow of data on how that mentee is progressing in the shop. And so a couple of weeks go by, and now my mentee and I are working on diagnosing engines. First task, a good place to start, looking for signs of engine wear and failure. As a mentor, before I track any work, I can actually set a goal on this task. If I click set goal, I can tell my mentee I want you to get 15 repetitions across a total of 2 task hours. I want you to get that done by August 10th. So keep in mind, when you're working off a task list and really setting out a plan with a mentee, try to make your goals as smart as possible. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Don't try to get the whole world under their belt in the first couple of weeks. Give them some bite-sized chunks and start to get early wins so you can promote the ones in the future. So great, we have that goal set, and my mentee and I go out and we look at an engine, get it diagnosed. So we'll record that task as well. It took us about 15 minutes. Great job for a comment, and I'll apply a rating as well, another 2. As the page reloads, we'll see that goal data pop up with the new rep, and really we're moving down the road. We're not only laying out a plan, but we're tracking progress against that plan as well. Next question, the natural question is, once we get the data, what do we do with it? Well, if we go back to the dashboard here, the report that I'm going to show is the competency progress report. And as we see at the very top of this page, it shows 14% completed overall. Okay, that means that out of 127 of the tasks on this list, my mentees earned competency in 18 of them. And competency in our book is when a mentee on a single task earns 3 repetitions rated as a 3 or higher. So regardless of your method, keep in mind that when your mentees are gaining those skills, don't just have them show you once, have them show you multiple times and make sure they really understand it. Can you verify their understanding while they're still in the bay? But scrolling down on this report, we'll see that same statistic for each section of the task list. On communication, we're at 100. Scrolling down, we're at 40% on fundamentals of machining. As a manager, I want to know more. If I expand the section, I'm going to see each task as well as the number of reps rated as a 3 or higher, with the ability to see all task reps that have been recorded. So whether you're a mentor, mentee, or manager looking at this report, you can go in depth, stay high level, go back to your dashboard, you can sign out for the day and get back to training and producing billable hours. With a system, with a program in your shop that has a process and methodology behind it, that's something you can walk into a CTE program with day one and say, hey, I have a plan for your students. So across the board, I'm going to jump back to my presentations here. I've got a couple more slides, but ultimately, with a mentoring program, this should be something that brings value to your business for a long time. And the reason that it doesn't a lot of times is that we don't have leadership support or we don't have a long-term vision. Get here. Perfect. Kyle, I think I got this one first try. Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay, so a couple of slides here. Again, when you're developing talent, use a system, and it does not have to be mentor-mentee. Use a system that's repeatable, that gets the right people, sets their expectations, and then really runs as a self-fulfilling prophecy with management involvement ongoing. Okay, talked about mentoring pitfalls. Really, these are items that'll help you get ahead in mentoring when you're just starting out. So number one, prove to your local CTE programs that you're for real and recruit from them. That source right there, you're not the only person who's going into that instructor and looking for technicians. So how can you promote your program and your business to make it the clear, obvious choice of, yeah, if anywhere, that's where I want my students to go from the instructor's point of view. 2, man, this is huge. If you're going to do mentoring, commit to it. Don't just talk the talk, walk it. And there's going to be bumps, there's going to be bruises, but ultimately it's an investment in your business that should bring value in the long term. 3, again, for the mentee, give them a roadmap, not just for their wage growth, but for their career and their tools as well. 4, okay, don't allow bullying. This is a touchy one too. You know, in the US at least, bullying, you know, it's not accepted in schools in any shape or form, and it shouldn't be. And in the shop environment, if you've been a technician before, I'm sure you've seen guys joking around and messing with each other, gals too. Listen, that's going to happen. The thing that you need to keep an eye on as a manager is to make sure that it's not consistently happening at someone else's expense. Jokes are great, but if it turns into bullying, that technician, that mentee is going to think either you don't really care about them or the program as a whole. And you don't want that. You don't want that perception. So 5, again, help your mentors make more money, if anything. And 6, recruit with soft skills in mind. Recruits are absolutely everywhere. You never know when you're going to bump into them. So with that in mind, with that data over to you and the audience, we open it up for Q&A. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, please put any questions that you've got in the chat, and Amanda's going to be monitoring those and sharing them with us.
Super, thanks guys. Kyle, Mark, that was excellent presentation. Man, it just puts it in perspective. Just watching, all what you had to say there, listening to it. Myself, I mean, I was a shop owner, and just when you mentioned walk the walk, it's very easy for us to get caught up in day-to-day, stuff. You promise that you're going to train a technician, or you're going to teach them how to bore a block. So Friday at 3 o'clock, we're just going to stop, and today's your day to learn. We're going to learn how to bore that block. Well, sure enough, you're trying to get an engine out the door, and that doesn't happen. And now let's try again next Friday. And then, so again, we totally have been, and I'm sure a lot of our shops that are listening today are in that same situation where, without a structured program like what you have, really, it's just an easy excuse not to get it done. So, if anything, when they commit to what you have here, with the amount of data that you have and with the proper mentor, really then the responsibility is on the mentor mentee, and you've got a program in place so that it does happen. And like we're seeing, I mean, it's pretty common, and we talk to machinists all the time that have only been at a workplace for about a year and a half, and you ask them, well, how come you changed industries, or why you're not, I know I was talking to you at the last trade show, and you said, I met you and you were all gung-ho about engines, but now you're working in another field altogether. And you hear that all the time about, well, I just wasn't getting the training that I needed. I got bored. I lost passion because, my manager wasn't able to train me. So great presentation, guys. It really hits home, I think, not just for our industry, but just in all industries in general. That's just what we're seeing right now. So I can see how this ties to a technician shortage, because, if we're not putting the effort in as managers to get our employees trained or our technicians trained, then this is why we're losing them for sure. So there are a few questions that are coming across. And the first question is, they're asking, is there a difference between mentoring and apprenticing? And if so, what is it?
Yes, Rob, that's a great question. Kyle, I'll take this one. This is something that we've learned a lot about too over the past 4 years. I think when it comes to apprenticeships, that term kind of gets used. Maybe if you bring in an entry-level technician, you say, hey, we've got an apprentice. And that's one of the ways it's used. At least in the formal governmental side, an apprenticeship program is usually an RAP, a registered apprenticeship program with the U.S. Department of Labor. And so before any mentees or businesses are involved, that program sponsor drafts a lot of documents, lays out the specific tasks, timelines, groups that are involved that are going to be a part of that program ongoing. Then that program sponsor starts to get hand raisers from businesses, or maybe it's an internal program. And there's also some financial support from the government in certain cases as well. On the other side, mentoring is more entrepreneurial in nature. So a mentoring program, it's usually one business that's involved with it. They can set the standards, the timelines, the resources involved, and they can change that criteria basically ongoing at will as they learn and get better. So to put it simply, I would say that apprenticeships have elements of mentoring because there will be mentors involved, but mentoring really is kind of its standalone, the core basis of teaching on-the-job skills.
Yep. Yep. And the one thing that I would add to that is that whether it's a registered apprenticeship program or whether it's a less formalized mentoring program, it doesn't really change the fact that you're going to use the same process and the same system. It really just changes the amount of paperwork and formalization that goes along with it.
Yeah, it's the same goal, just kind of a different method, different way to do it.
Okay, yep, super. Well, the next question is they're asking, how do we get involved or how do we find out more about what it is you do at Mentor Mentee? How do we, they're just asking, let's see here, how do we sign up or how do we get involved?
Absolutely, Rob. Let me put my screen up. You can send me an email, and I'm going to pull it up right here. And we'd be happy to have a discussion. And really, the first place that we always start with is we want to know about what you're currently doing with entry-level technicians, because anything that you can do, hey, that's going to be a great start. So feel free, you should see my email on the screen now. Shoot me an email, and I will certainly get back with you today.
Okay, all right. Next question, Mark. They're asking, how can I better recruit entry-level technicians?
Given Kyle was the king of SP2 and he knows schools better than anybody, I'm going to defer to him.
Yeah, this is, again, always be recruiting, look everywhere. However, the easiest place to start is going to be your local career tech program. And it has to start by building a relationship with those instructors. If you're the guy that just walks in and says, hey, give me your best kid, there's no way they're going to give you their best student. That student is probably already placed with somebody who has an ongoing commitment to helping them grow that program and investing in that program. And so that's where you really need to start, is you need to actually say, okay, I'm not going to look at this short term, I'm going to look at this long term. I want to build that relationship. I volunteer to be on their advisory committee. They're always looking for people that are willing, ready, and able to be on an advisory committee and help them not only make sure that the program's right and appropriate for their students, but also selling it internally at the school, making sure that administration recognizes the importance of their program, helping to introduce them to other organizations within the community. If you want to donate, whether it's money, product, supplies, equipment, vehicles, engines, whatever it is that you have the ability to provide to them, that's valuable to them as well. It's making that commitment and building that relationship with the instructors and the administration at those schools, and ultimately that creates that relationship with the students. And again, also be looking at service industries, restaurants, hospitality, hotels, other automotive businesses in town. Although if you're out there poaching from other automotive businesses, you already know this, right? They're poaching from you as well. So if we're just taking people out of the automotive industry into a new business, it doesn't put any new blood within our industry. So we've got to be looking outside at the next generation, as well as people who are working at Walmart or working at the local McDonald's down the street, getting those young men and young women who have great social skills, great interpersonal skills to come into our industry and learn the technical skills from a mentor who's ready, willing, and able to be that conduit to help them.
Yeah, that's a great point, Kyle. Really good point. Another question for you guys is, do you have a recipe for where to start with base pay for technicians or pay increments throughout your program?
So it's one of the number one questions that we hear. And, speaking of apprenticeships versus mentoring, part of the apprenticeship model is that there are, phased pay based on you learn this number of skills. Okay, you move here, learn these next skills, and you can move up until kind of a graduation level. And that might turn into flat rate at that point. What Kyle and I can't do today is say you should be paying X number of dollars, but The recipe, if you can keep in mind that there's really two things, especially when it comes to mentees. One is when they're coming in, you have to be competitive not only with the shop down your street, but with Wendy's, McDonald's, the Amazon warehouse, because they're paying 17 bucks an hour. So a good way to counteract that is saying, if a mentee says, hey, I can go down the street and make more. Sure, you can make more now, but what about in 2 to 3 years down the road? What does that career growth look like for you? So that's one thing to keep in mind, being competitive with pay early on. And then two is the tool element as well. Structuring that tool plan either as part of their salary, maybe it's a weekly deduction, maybe it's a tool box that gets donated after X number of months in the business. There's more things to compensation than just money for the mentor and mentee as well. Kyle, any comments on that?
So Mark's absolutely right. Showing that career path and that compensation path is valuable to the young man or the young woman who's trying to decide, is this where I want to take my career, or should I be looking at, maybe I make a couple bucks more an hour right now. Being able to show them that, hey, you're topped out. That's vitally important. But one of the other things that we've got to remember is that compensation plan for the mentors. I saw that somebody in the when I said, hey, put your mentor on there, somebody put Raymond Joe Doss trained me because he got a percentage of my paid labor. And you know what? That's actually a great way to structure mentor compensation. Is, like Mark said, they can't lose money. If they lose money, they'll sabotage the program. However, if you can make sure, like, look, you're guaranteed to make what you are already making, but I'm going to incentivize you to get this young man or this young woman up to speed faster, because you're going to get a percentage of what their hours are that they're clocking. It's an investment on the mentee, and they should be on an hourly rate until flat rate makes sense, or commission makes sense, or whatever your pay structure is makes sense, where they're making money for themselves and they're making money for the business. But the mentor, incentivize them to speed up the process of getting that young man or young woman to the point where they're making money for the shop and themselves by giving them some portion of the hours that they're clocking. Both of those have to be in balance so that you can maintain the mentee and show them that there's a career path, and that the mentor isn't going to lose money and can actually make more money by really helping that next generation grow quickly.
Absolutely.
Okay, super. One more question, guys, and then what we'll do is we kind of like to respect everybody's time. We know everybody's kind of pulled themselves away from their busy day, and any questions that we don't get to, we'll make sure to get these over to Kyle and Mark, and they'd be more than happy. We'll get the rest of the questions answered, and we'll make sure to do that. So one more question for you guys. So we talked about where to find entry-level technicians, but what about some of the traits to look for when selecting a mentor? What are some of the easy ones without trying to figure out put them through the ringer, or trying to put them through a course or something? What are some of the easy ones that we can look for?
Go for it, Mark.
Yeah, I'm going to try to steal all the Kyles and then turn it to him and see what he comes up with. Number one, like we said, willing. You can't force a mentor to be a mentor. They have to be communicated about the program, hopefully early on too, before it's really solidified, and said, hey, would you be willing to come in and help? Yes, here's what's expected of you. Okay, good. Two, able. Do they have the ability to do it? And this is where we also get some ranges of ability as well. A lot of times, the first place we'll go to when thinking of a mentor is that A-Tech, your most knowledgeable person in the shop who's producing the most hours. In many cases, it's actually better to let that person be. The better you can match your mentor in terms of skill and age gaps, really the better off you're going to be, because the D-level technician doesn't need to know B or A work, they need to know C work, and they need to get those skills ongoing. So willing, able, and then the two that I always hit on, are they a good communicator, and can they listen? Because a mentor, it is a career guide, but it's also a life guide as well. I mean, Kyle's dad, Lyril, was my mentor, like he mentioned, and I can't tell you the amount of knowledge I gained, not only about what we're doing, but in life as a whole. So communication, listening, willing, and able. Kyle, what are yours?
Okay, so yeah, Mark, you did a great job. You stole everything that I was going to say. So, but I will say, I'll add one thing in here, and it really does tie back to the task lists and the things that the mentor is teaching that mentee or that apprentice, and that is the mentor has to be dedicated to the approach that the business is taking as well. And Mark showed you the report that we have in terms of here's how you can tell the progress that the mentee or the apprentice is making. We've got another report in there, and just due to time, we couldn't show everything, but there's another report in there that shows that the apprentice or the mentor are putting the tasks in. They're saying they are evaluating repetitions. If you're the manager of that process, and you can look in and you can see, okay, I know that Mark the mentor is evaluating his mentee, but I can also look in and I can see, well, Kyle's got a mentee, and I don't see any of the information coming into the system. That could be a show that I am not dedicated to the process. Well, I just know that they're doing well. Well, that's not good enough. We need transparency in a mentoring process, and that starts with the mentor sticking to the plan and making sure, and the manager making sure that mentor and mentee relationship is progressing. So I'd say that's the other part is willing and able. Absolutely, they have to stick to what they agreed to do.
It's almost an element, excuse me, of persistence, Kyle.
Yes.
Are they persistent? Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah.
All right, guys, I'm going to sneak one more question in here, just that we've got it, and that it's one really good one, because a lot of our shops in our industry are small. I mean, they're a 1 to 3 person shop. That's a really common thing. So this person's asked, can a 3-person shop set up an RAP?
That's a fantastic question. Without knowing all the details behind the shop, I couldn't give you a great answer on that. Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that probably in order to be part of a registered apprenticeship program, you may want to look at other organizations that are already setting up those kinds of registered apprenticeship programs. There's a lot of paperwork that goes into it. The answer is yes, of course you can. It's just, are you willing to jump through all of the red tape that goes along with that? But you can always, whether you go the full RAP process or whether you look at more of an informal, less paperwork intensive mentoring program, you can absolutely be building on your staff by growing the next generation of technicians for your business.
Well said,
Super.
Kyle.
Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, well said. And just to let everybody know too that what we did, like the task list that we produced here was we took our automotive training and engine repair book, our online training program, and we based the task list through the book. So we know a lot of our members are using our book or our training program to go through the system. And we thought this is where you guys would really kick in, and we'd be able to, the mentor mentee program, this is almost kind of like our hands-on approach, so that now we know that this theory-based training is now going to get some some skills from the shop. So really good work, guys. I appreciate your presentation. Any questions that we have that still come in, I'll make sure to get those over to you. And if anybody, like I say, these Kyle and Mark have been excellent to work with. If you're interested in the mentor mentee program, the task list that they have is based right from our own training manual. So they'd be more than happy to work with you and help you out. So guys, I'll let you go for today. Thanks again. You have a good rest of your afternoon.
You too, Rob. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. We appreciate you.
Have a great day. Thank you.
So to wind things up, I'll just go back to Amanda here for a minute, and she's got a few slides to go through, and we'll get everybody on their way.
All right. Real quick, first off, I know a few of you have asked about viewing the webinar after. You will get a link to the recording tomorrow, but also all of our webinars do go out to our YouTube channel. So if you haven't already, go out to YouTube, search for Engine Builders Association or AERA Engine Builders, and you'll find our page. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you know when we upload new content. and I expect that this one will be up before the weekend. Just a great way to find any webinars we put out. Every once in a while, we add a couple extra things that are not done in this format out there as well. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything there. And then lastly, when you leave today, you will get a survey that pops up. Take a moment, fill that out. Let us know how we are doing. If you have any additional questions for us here at AERA or the folks over at Mentor Mentee, you can enter them in there. Also, if there's something you guys would like to see us do a webinar on, make sure to stick that in there as well. We always like hearing what you guys want to see, and if we can pull something together, we definitely will. So as always, thank you for attending. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to tune in today. And if you have any questions for AERA, you can reach anyone at the team at 815-526-7600, or you can always shoot Rob or myself an email. Our email addresses are listed there at the bottom. Thank you, and have a great rest of your week.